and then you drop into some grassy corners, which were super famous. Sam Hill getting through in 2007, they were like the impossible corners in the wet, and he managed to get through, you know, big foot out, slide, slap, slide, the king.
All right, Chris Kilmurray.
I'm back. Woo.
We're backing out this Ryco, different floor.
Are we rolling?
We're rolling.
The fans are tuning in.
Everyone's here.
Oh God.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah, good. Slightly less, no bike riding this week for myself in between the racing and the work.
Okay.
Normally get up super early, go for a quick ride, clear the head, enjoy nature, enjoy bikes, reconnect, remember why you do it, remember what the passion's all about, whether it's coaching, winning races or anything else, it's all about riding bikes. However, this week in Leger, it rained sideways all night, every night. A lot, so I didn't get up early to ride bikes because I wouldn't have had any time to clean the aftermath of riding said bikes. So yeah, fatigue is low and vibes are moderate to high. So yeah.
Good. What about the riders? I would imagine fatigue is higher, right? Mentally and physically quite a demanding week.
Yeah, super demanding week. With the lift situation in Leger, the top lift being slow, even though they change the rule, essentially they give a dispensation to allow you to start from halfway, which is the top of the gondola, the lake level. So basically split 2 onwards. Riders seldom start from that point. They want to do full runs.
Yeah,
I think because everything filters into everything else in a logical sense.
Yeah.
So they didn't get that many runs in. The majority of riders got 4 on practice day.
Okay.
So day 1. So in your 4 hours, they got 4 runs, 1 run per hour, which is what you kind of expect with the slow lifts.
Yeah.
It's 26 minutes minus the queuing, minus lining up at the bottom.
Yeah.
To get to the top. So it's probably 40 minutes to get up there, and then 10 minutes to
execute.
Yeah, to arse about on the bike. Fall over quite a lot. A lot of people did a lot of falling over.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting week. So I think there is definitely a bit of fatigue. It's a super physical track. It's probably my estimate's probably 150 meters longer than previous versions just because of how much it turned.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere between 100 to 150 meters longer, especially sector 2, the main woods just below the road gap, which we saw on TV for the last few riders in each category. Except the juniors, which was diabolical. But look, we'll work on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, fatigue. Yes, I think a lot of people did have an eye on this week, next week, Champéry, World Champs. So there was a little bit of like, right, I'll do the work, but I'll be smart. Mm-hmm. And the conditions just made you be smart anyway. Like you had to get clean between runs. The bike needed to be clean. You know, the bikes were anywhere from Woody, Jackson Goldstone's mechanic, told me 6 kilos, or Jackson himself, I think, told me 6 kilos of mud on the bike on day 1. And other people were like 3 to 7 kilos, depending on the mud and the type of bike.
Yeah.
So the bikes were heavy, kit was heavy, things had to be cleaned between runs. So there wasn't actually a huge amount of practice got done. And the variableness in terms of how quick it degraded, how quick it got wet, how quick it dried out, which it didn't, all the rest just meant that it was so hard to do anything of major value. You know, if you wanted to really dissect the track, work through lines, corners, sections, sectors, full run, the whole lot, the rider needed to be massively motivated for it, like hugely motivated for it, constantly in contact with the coaches or whoever's trackside staff at the bottom, whatever it may be. And I think the vast majority of riders were just concerned about riding the bike well. You know, and there's so many mistakes. And keeping warm, riding the bike well was number one. And even you see someone as supremely talented and skilled, well trained as Jackson Goldstone came a cropper pretty much probably every run. I need to ask him if he crashed pretty much every run he was out there, but it wasn't far off it, I think, poor guy. You know, so the limits were fine. As the track got eroded a bit more and the dirt got exposed, or the dirt got chopped away, everything got exposed. All the routes, everything became an edge that was no longer an edge, so caught a tyre a bit differently or pushed, so it was carnage.
Brutal week. Takeaways, like what performances stand out to you considering we're, a week away from technically the biggest race of the year?
So many riders, actually. Gracie Hemstreet, massively. Was fantastic and not fantastic in practice in equal measures. Okay. Completely overriding the ruts, and I heard her actually say it to Joe Smith, who works with Norco at the races, and Joe's a fantastic rider and a fantastic guy and coach himself, and she just said, I think she pushed back, or he pushed back the bike up to hit this line that Tahnée actually nailed all week as well, except for Q1 where she crashed on it, and Gracie came in, just hit it too hard, oversteered out of the rut. She kept oversteering out of ruts all week essentially because she was just going too fast, expecting too much from the conditions, but managed to suss it out, calm it down, dial it in, rode slow in those sectors at the top of the track, and then just as she has done all season, as she built into it, just let the afterburners go and just did an exceptional job. So Gracie Hemstreet, big standout performance from her. Great to see. Kind of solidified herself now as like, this is the real deal, and we have to get to work and keep an eye on her. In my camp anyway.
Fair, yeah.
And then Loïc Bruni
Yeah.
on the men's side.
Okay.
Because I think he said it himself in his Instagram post, in French, there's big progress in the mud.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah,
he's proud of himself. And
that's
it was,
fair.
he rode sensationally all week.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting frustrated. He wasn't dabbing whole pile. He was making the most of his mass, his size, his style of riding. The bike looked fantastic in the mud. Really was tracking super well, not too stiff, not too soft, all of the above. I think him and Jack have done an exceptional job getting that newest generation of that bike, which is production now, ready
Okay.
for all the races. So Loïc did a fantastic job. Finals run wasn't what it needed to be. He just undercooked it, and he's done it a lot in the past. He's done it a lot in the past, where he just undercooks it a couple of the clicks, a couple of percentage points, and that's 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds in these conditions. But great performance nonetheless from him. Asa Vermette, those conditions really kind of like, you could see him progressing through practice, learning as he goes, coming up with some creative strategies to make it easier for himself, pulling out of ruts early. Probably still running a relatively stiff setup, loves a stiff bike. The bike's probably, I don't know what the word is. I need to ask Nico, but it's probably a stiff bike laterally, torsionally, and the suspension's definitely on the stiffer side.
Yeah.
You know, but he's a big kid and he's grown and gained a lot of weight, so I think he did exceptionally well to get second place. His time would have been fourth overall of the day. And then his concurrent, as we say in French, his number one competition, Max Alaran, that was outrageous.
That was a very special run. That
was beyond special.
Yeah.
I think the transition to elites is never simple. For him, it could be simple, and everyone should be worried.
Yeah.
But that there's no pressure on him now. It's just like, whatever, I'm here to ride bikes, whatever. So it's potentially easier. So I cannot wait to see all of those guys next year in elites. And Max Alaran is the realest of real deals we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, the steez, the style, the relaxedness, the speed, it's phenomenal. Elite Osgard as well.
Yeah, that was an incredible run.
Was on for an absolute stormer and was, I think she would have been, so at split 3, it might have been split 2 in Elita's case. I think split 2. So half the track, the meat of the woods and all the tech stuff. She was only a couple of seconds down on Vali and Tahnée, who at that point were head and shoulders above everyone. Yeah. Tahnée at split 2 was head and shoulders above Vali. Vali pulled back quite a bit in sector 3. Yeah. So Elita was right on that sort of pace with those ladies. And we can talk about conditions as much as we want. There was as much difficulty and
slightly different difficulty maybe,
different type of difficulty to execute, regardless whether you're in junior category at midday or 11 a.m. versus elite women at 1300 or men in the afternoon, whatever.
Yeah, like some things got better, some things got worse.
A lot of things got weird. Yeah, everything there was nothing easy. Yeah. So there you go. So I think, and there's probably a heap of other standout performances throughout the week. Martin Mays, my boy, Party Marty. That was like flat pedals. Yeah. So we go for the stats because everyone loves the stats. So first flat pedal podium, true podium, top 3 since Conor Fear in 2014. Okay. Conor also got a 4th in 2017, I think. Okay. Leogang, I think 2017. But he got a second place in 2015 Leogang. So that was the second or third. Yeah. So that was the most recent. So it's a decade since someone got a top 3 in the elite men's category on flat pedals. And Party Marty did 1 run on clips. First day of practice, maybe 2. Yeah. And was just like, nah, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. Get them big pink flat pedals on there and off we go. So there you go. Crazy, huh? Yeah. And what a guy. He's a phenomenal rider. He's a phenomenal athlete. Yeah. He's a unique character, a unique person, and he's an amazing guy. So he had the Belgian fans here, the whole family were here, the wife, the daughter, the sister, brilliant. The extended family, as well as about 50 Belgians with all sorts of paraphernalia to spectate Sackside. So it was amazing. And I think for Martin, the pressure was big. He would have put a lot of pressure on himself to perform for those people. And when it means something like that to him, that's when he's at his best. So we need more. Next week we need the Belgians back, or we need something else from him, Definitely. So, but he's definitely in for, he's a medal contender. He's keen. He's the real deal. There's less than a year between his last EWS win, we'll call it EWS, since his last EWS win and his World Cup podium, which was almost a win yesterday. So that means you're probably the real deal. Yeah, his ability to adapt and transition has been more than impressive. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about Champery. So I think we first saw it on the World Cup circuit in 2007. We had a World Champs there in 2011, from which possibly the most watched downhill run ever was created by Danny Hart with Rob Warner and I think Nigel Page in the commentary booth together, maybe after a few beers. During a few beers. That was pre Red Bull.
Yeah, it's Freecaster days.
era. That was pre Rob's media training. He'll probably tell you some interesting stories himself, but I've heard some stories.
Yeah.
So 2007 first World Cup in Champery. Yours truly sitting here was a contestant.
Good man.
Number plate 127, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of the week on my back. Ran a bike with a far too soft shock and a far too hard fork because I didn't realise spring rates were a thing.
Okay.
At that point in time. Sponsored by Ancelotti, if anyone knows, at the time, and they sent me the spring they thought was the right for my weight.
Yeah.
And it was probably 1 or 2 spring rates too low, or I ran the fork too stiff. I can't remember which, but I wasn't very smart.
Yeah.
But I remember being so out of my depth, but the best in the world were also at their very limit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nico said he was terrified the whole weekend there.
It's phenomenal. Lucky I was as young as I was, because fear is not the same thing, and you bounce good. But there's some clips from those races, and it's just like, yeah. But actually, I rode it 2 weeks ago, and I remembered there's a big really tech rock setup corner now, and that was just a flat corner to poorly built bench. That's where everyone was going over the bars, but partially because the bikes were so bad.
Yeah.
So we tried loads of variations of that corner without doing the big setup, because the setup's it's pretty tech and it's a big commitment. And I think if any of the elite women can get up into this famous setup, if you go to Till Alran's Instagram, one of his most recent reels is this rock setup corner. It's pretty tech. It's not super hard, but it's tech at speed. Key to that section if you can do it. All the elite men will be on it, I think. There'll definitely be some crashes too. But in 2007, that was just flat to death bench. It was like, I remember Nathan Rennie, Steve Peachy, Aston, all of them dying. All my idols at the time were just getting cleaned out. So, and then I ended up, there was no berms. There was no real benches. They had a plank of wood at the bottom of one of the steepest sections just after the first road crossing. So I remember coming into the plank of wood, having made some horrific error for many seconds before that, and just locking up and just going straight for the plank of wood, and I snapped my fork lowers clean in half.
No way.
And there was no evacuation. The only way out's a helicopter essentially, unless you hike around. So I just slid on my bum with the bike on my chest underneath the chairlift the whole way to the nearest road, and then rolled down the road.
This just shows how steep this thing is.
Yeah, so if we go more stats, it's 580 odd meter descent, which is it would be actually the most we have on the circuit if it wasn't for Les Tuiles. Les Tuiles over 600, which is unprecedented essentially. But Champery is only about between 1.7 and 1.8 kilometers long, depending on what way you measure it, depending on what way they tape it. I think we're taping in quite a few straight lines, from what I hear. Fresh. A couple of fresh straight lines, which will reduce the distance. Yeah. So you're looking at probably 1,700 meters, 1.7 kilometers, which means that the average gradient's at least 33%. So we've never had a world, as far as average gradients, it's a rough metric. It's just a nice one to kind of have in your head. But if you take, for example, a track like Andorra's 24, Leger is probably 23.5 in this iteration with all the corners. Val di Sole at its steepest ever when there was no corners was probably 26 or 27%. So here Champery's 33 at a minimum, which means that certain sections are sustained 60% sustained, so 100% being 90 degrees.
That is
vertical,
very steep.
Yeah, so
it shows how things have progressed though, right? Because this rider shall remain nameless, but I spoke to one pro rider this week who described it as a blue run but vertically down the hill.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah, pro riders will think it's a blue run. For your average rider, it's not blue run. It's way too sustained steep for that.
Yeah,
it's got blind ledges. It's got a load of features in it: awkward jumps, blind jumps, successive jumps, high lines, which are essentially critical to make the thing actually flow. So gaps across routes into a berm type thing. The famous rock slab where Sam Hill crashed in 2007 in the wet. That all of those things it's very much not blue. However, it is very much bike park.
Yeah. Okay.
Not blue for your average pilot. Not blue for most of the listeners. It's probably red to a light shade of black.
Okay.
But for World Cup racer, it was extremely easy. I ride it a lot during the autumn. So especially with the older World Cup schedule before we raced in October, when we finished in September, Champery Morjan bike parks open right till the end of October.
Okay.
Usually we get amazing autumn weather throughout end of September, early October, crisp, cool. The dirt stays perfectly grippy because it gets cool and damp at night time. You get a bit of morning dew. The sun eventually comes up and heats up the air, so you're comfortable sitting at your van between runs, relaxing. Pristine World Cup track. Smooth berms, smooth between the berms. The berms are essentially vert, if not kind of over vert.
Yeah.
So you can just rip every corner. The dream. Went back there a few weeks ago. Not like that anymore. It's been left open. Ben Walker and the course crew in Champery have said, look, we'll just leave it open. We'll get it rough. We'll get it challenging. It's still super narrow. So some of the sections, an example in Leger, were probably taped at 15 meters wide.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah.
15 meters wide. And there was probably between 2 or 3 lines or a variation of line, there was probably the lines themselves being like a meter wide in Leger, but there was probably 6 or 8 meters between lines in some sections in Leger. Come in, do a wide to an inside or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Champery, that's just not what we're going to have. It's going to be tight, with the exception of a couple of sections at the bottom where you can get up on a bank and it's vertically high and slightly wide.
Yeah.
So it's going to be real narrow from what we're used to. It is a bike park, but as I've said, they've left it open. It's got really, really rough. So previously, when you would have wanted to move, you come in, you do a setup, and you'd be like, right, I'm not in the right position on the track. Therefore, my direction as I enter and then exit a berm is somewhat dictated by this position.
Okay.
So I need to change my entry position, so my direction as I exit is what I want it to be, so I can have a new kind of advantageous position for the next corner, the next section. It's essentially successive turns is what's going to win the race. That's all it is, essentially.
Yeah.
I can't remember the number of turns off the top of my head, but it's quite a few. So yeah, all you historically had to do was just move. You like, up a little bit, down a little bit. You ride with a good rider, you'll see them do the micro setups all the time. You're like, wow, just micro setup. It's the kind of thing I have to remind myself to do, whereas the world class just have it on lockdown.
It's a reflex. Yeah.
It's just on lockdown. So now you've got the necessity of the setup, the micro setup, but you've got a whole host of roughness and little tasty bits on the floor.
Some
a lot of
chaos.
A lot of square edge rocks. Like I dinged flat spot a lot of wheels last time I was there, just trying to go too fast for my soft tire pressure probably. So there's a lot going on, a lot more going on there than it has been historically. It's still not super challenging in terms of the overall challenge in comparison to like what we had in Leger or other things technically. But as I said to a lot of people this weekend in Leger, having ridden it, having seen its evolution from when I've ridden it loads the last kind of decade, for a one-off race for world champs, we're going to get good weather, it looks like. It's probably going to be pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, if they do a good job on the TV, it's going to be cool for the fans.
Nice.
So, as a venue for the calendar, for the World Cup calendar, like,
it's a no.
That's an absolute no.
Okay.
Yeah, but as a one-off world champs, mythic, all the rest, you know, people like Danny Hart are actually racing, which is amazing.
That is cool, yeah.
After doing his 2011 run, people like Steve Peat, who were there in 2007 or trackside or whatever else. Me, I wouldn't put myself in the same category as Steve, but anyway. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, and we've got this whole crop of amazing talent. You know what I mean? The junior category, we've got some amazing riders. We've got the junior men who are just let's not even discuss. We don't need to discuss the amazingness of that. I got a sneaky eye on Till Alran to do good things. The finesse required for this track is super easy, and then I think Ace's precision brutality, we'll call it, is quite suited to it as well.
A nice way to describe it.
Yeah. So there's lots going on in the junior category, and then elite men, elite women is more competitive than we've ever had. Ronan Dunne's just won a Leger in emphatic fashion.
Yeah.
With a run that was pretty clean, actually. He said he got absolutely wild over that first little double just before the road gap and got way offline. I came into the road gap, he said offline twice, so out with the ruts or whatever it was, and he landed the road gap and he was like, lads, like, settle down. Like, we need to calm this down, otherwise we will not be getting to the finish line.
Yeah. And
he did, and he won the race. And he's done, by his own admission, he's done probably the most laps of anyone in Champery. He's a good friend of his, owns some property over there, so he's been over there a lot just as a base between races. He's done a lot of runs over there, as a lot of other people have.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Right, I mean, it makes sense. The track's been open. You're not going to not go there, and it's the organisers wanted that to get the track rough and ready and make it more challenging. But there's always that, like, should you, shouldn't you? You're always going to if it's open though, right? But anyone that hasn't been there is surely at a disadvantage. Yeah,
you're always going to go and ride it. Well, you're not always going to. But if you have the opportunity to ride a genuine World Cup track, hence why people come to Plenty here in Morzine, because it has World Cup elements to it. Yeah. Hence why people go elsewhere. Loudonville, really good example, especially pre-season. You're going to try and replicate the demands, and you can at least kind of put your hat on it and like, oh, this setup worked here, and this is actually a World Cup track or close to it. So of course you're going to go and do it. Ethically, should you do it? Actually, realistically, how close are they when they're not taped and they're not being ridden and raced? There's some, you can have a bit of debate there. I think the case of Champery, a lot of people had never ridden it.
Okay.
It's a little bit like I live here, so it's for sure I've ridden it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
You know, go over there on the enduro bike and ride it as part of the big loop. Go during the autumn because it's amazing conditions and it's a beautiful place, etc., etc. The amount of people I spoke to, they were like, "Oh, that was my first time." Because it's a little bit out of the way. If you come to Morzine or Leger or somewhere in the Porte du Soleil, it's the extremities of the Porte du Soleil. Yeah. And once you're there, you can't really do much else, only a couple of tracks, you know. So, and in its previous version, like we said, as very bike parky, it's good fun. It was a challenge for a good rider to challenge for about 2 laps, a lap and a half.
Yeah.
You do a lap, you're like, oh wow, this is steep. Oh, there's a lot of braking. Oh, I can smell my brake pads. Oh, because I've been essentially screwing about.
Yeah.
Halfway down lap 2, you're like, right, I'll figure this out.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever. So that's why people just wouldn't go back. But now, world champs, medals on the line, prestige, the whole mythic Champery thing, Danny Hart's run, Sam Hill's run in 2007, which was
phenomenal.
Yeah, insane. So yeah, I think people went there and they would have been like, this is quite unique. So I've come here, I've done 8 laps. Let's call the team and let's get the whole squad out here or whatever it need be, because it actually is unique and requires a different setup. It's going to require at a minimum, it's going to require different geometry, essentially, different bar height, potentially slightly slacker, different spring rates front and rear than what you'd normally run, definitely different spring rates to what you're going to run, what you ran yesterday in Leger.
For sure.
That sort of thing. So there's the practicalities of bike setup, there's the practicalities of just getting over those initial hurdles of like, this is a bit weird. There's a couple of key lines which will probably take more than a couple of laps to get your head around, depending on how good you are or aren't, especially in you know, the latter half of the men's field or the other categories. So there's loads of reasons why you'd go there once and be like, right, I'm going to come back, because I've gone there once, I've sussed it out. This is really unique, it's really strange, it's actually challenging in some ways. It's really challenging on the brakes and the brake pads and the tires and the wheels. So let's go. And you can imagine a team like Commence Muckhoff, for example, who've been there more than once, let's not lie, in different guises, just riding for the sake of getting laps in, plus more organised, structured camps with the team. And exactly. And honest to God, I think a team of that calibre probably went there and were like, I wonder what a slightly softer wheel will feel like. I wonder what a slightly stiffer wheel will feel like. I wonder what the stiffer fork and the softer rear end to get it to squat nicely in every corner, but not too much, because it needs to support. But you want it to squat for the general layout of the hill, but you need it to really support, like extreme support in some of those berms, extreme low speed compression support. So, okay, how do we balance that? We get the geometry dialed. What does the wheels and tires do then? Can we, you know, so that's the direction people would have gone, which requires, no matter what, requires hours to do.
To do it properly.
Yeah. And you're essentially doing very little, but it just requires hours to do it, because you have to, you know, arse about between runs and do little tweak Allen keys and take things on and put things off and get feedback and make notes. And then the gondola over there, when it was gondola only, it runs every half hour. The chairlift does whatever. Like, so there's loads of reasons why people would have went multiple times. There's loads of reasons why you go once and you'd be like, right, I need to come back, do this a bit more organized and planned. And there's lots of people who only went once and rode 6 or 8 laps, you know. And then there's people like, you know, Teo, Ronan, who've been there and ridden heaps because they were staying there, they were living there. So what else are you going to do?
Yeah,
you know,
that's fair. So, but world champs, as we always talk about this time of year, it's a different structure. There is more practice time, and maybe even more marked now, because, you know, World Cup practice time seems to be kind of shrinking and getting more precious. Is there a risk there that, you know, there's some teams, some riders that are so dialed already on that track, the setup's good, they're at a risk of riding at, you know, World Cup winning pace day one, and they've got to sustain and create some sort of build through the week? Do you see that there's potentially that you could have done too much pre-work? I
mean, 100%. You can just do too many laps and you just get like some sort of boredom fatigue. You know what I mean? It happens to all of us when we ride.
Complacency,
fatigue. I think, having spoken to someone like Ronan, like, he's well aware of that, which is great, and his team will be as well, aware of that. So that'll be planned in. And then there is also riders that it doesn't bother them. You know what I mean? They can just do endless laps of whatever, and for numerous reasons, whether that's, you know, personality or upbringing or experience on the bike or whatever it may be, it just doesn't bother them. They just do, I did 10 laps, I did 20 laps, I did 600 laps, whatever. It's the same. I just go fast, you know, which is the hallmark of a lot of the best of the best ever racers. They can just turn it on when they need to turn it on, turn it off, whatever. So there is, but that risk is there for sure. And also there's the risk of like, this is slightly different because it's fully taped now. There's some new sections been brought in which are basic, but they're fresh. And there's the whole, it's actually a racetrack now with my competitors on the track. It's got an official start line, it's got an official finish line. I've got my set window to practice, and it's very short. So, or very kind of regimented throughout the week. So there's lots of reasons why it could be a positive and a negative. So it's just something that needs to be managed. And I think a lot of the teams, a lot of the riders are very good at that now because they have done pre-practice before at other venues. But like you said, this is the one venue where the track's pretty much going to be identical to what they rode, throughout the last few months. But I think what is critical is that now 2025 we have 6 hours practice at World Cups. Last year we had 6.5 or 6 hours 15. So we're losing a little bit. I think now at the 6 hour mark, it's pretty much where we're settling around there for now. We might lose another 15 minutes, or here in Leger we gained 15 actually. They gave an extra 15 on quali morning practice
because of the lift
situation, which was great. Champery World Champ schedule, when it was originally released a few months back, had 4 hours practice. So basically juniors track walk, juniors practice, then after juniors practice day one, the elites track walked, and then the next day the elites practiced and the juniors practiced a little bit and qualified. So it was essentially like our previous World Champ schedule, with the exception of that we didn't have the extra day. The extra day with an hour and a half practice or 2 hours practice like we had last year in Andorra and previous venues. So they just basically essentially deleted the extra day and just ran it Thursday to Sunday. With the elites only doing Friday to Sunday. 3 days like we do at the World Cup, but with 4 hours practice, not 6. So 4 hours practice with 45-minute windows. So the 45-minute blocks, which is just essentially if you have an issue, if there's a bit of queuing, if there's a crash, if there's a mechanical, it's one run or half a run, and you're not getting back up. You're not really it's going to be such a nightmare, So there was a lot of smoke signals to the UCI. I think that's their preferred means of communication. A lot of smoke signals to the UCI, and now there's this genuine disconnect. Whereas previously, historically, the UCI ran the World Cups when Red Bull were broadcasting. It was the UCI that organised and ran the World Cups. They don't do it anymore. Warner Brothers do the whole lot now. They do broadcasting, organisation, the whole lot. So there's a bit of a disconnect in terms of who to actually speak to, and just that constant communication between the people that work at the UCI and downhill. Team managers, riders, whatever else. But I think Myriam, as riders representative, still, it's essentially her last hurrah as riders rep. On the female side, she was like, I'm making this happen. We need more practice. This is dangerous. It's weird. It wasn't communicated, etc., etc. So she made it happen. We got 6 hours, which means that day one, Thursday practice, juniors and elites are mixed. So there's a lot of practice for the elites. There's not a lot of practice time-wise, but it's a lot of days. It's a day extra than we need, essentially. It's a day extra than we're used to. But it does mean we have these real short windows. So the elites practice in the afternoon, for example, and then quali. Practice in the afternoon after the juniors quali, and then practice in the afternoon themselves, and then quali themselves, and then practice in the morning and race themselves. So it's a little bit... So we'll have to have a good scan of the schedule, and the schedule has all the disciplines. So it's like reading Egyptian hieroglyphics, essentially. And I've asked ChatGPT to just extract the DH schedule for me, and it can't. It failed. I need to pay for more tokens.
It's no good,
or just do it manually. So it's going to be it's going to be, like you said, it's a totally different kind of kettle of fish to World Cups. So we're going to have to just, from day one, probably Tuesday next week, we're going to have to get the ball rolling with logistics, organizations, all of those sorts of things. You know what I mean? We're going to have to really get on top of this. Get dialed. This is what's going to happen here. This is the likely scenario here. Essentially, motorsport style, like we often say, get our run plans dialed. And especially there is people that have obviously ridden there a lot, and they may have a setup, especially those who've ridden there with the team, and mechanics and engineers and whoever else, and they may have a World Champ specific setup and everything else. So they're going to go, right, this is our run one setup, and we build from there. Other people might have an idea of what they want, so they're going to go in there and be like, this is my idea of what should work given the gradient, given the style of track, given what we know, or given the 5 runs I did 2 months ago. And I might be completely wrong, or it might be dialed. So there's going to be a lot of work to do in some short practice windows. So it's going to be super, super interesting.
Quite challenging. Do you think we're in a position where there's anyone in the overall fights this year that will focus on that and back off at World Champs? My guess would be no, but
no.
You think everyone's all in?
Everyone's all in. And if you look at who's in the battle, now Tahnée's taken a hit in the overall due to yesterday's performance, kind of on the wrong side of a couple of seconds, and 6th place, which is chronic, terrible for points. So Vali's got over 300 points on her now, which is bad. So Tahnée will be all in. Vali will be all in because she's not won anything in a long time, and she was distraught again yesterday, I think.
You could see it at the bottom.
I said, like Tahnée threw it away from like 3/4 way down, just kind of like, oh, this was slippy last year. Let's chill out a bit and make sure we get it home. And Gracie was like, I don't remember it slippy last year because I wasn't here last year. Let's just go. Exactly. So Tahnée will be on it. Vali will be on it. Gracie will be on it because it's steep and she's light.
This is my thing, right? Like brakes is a big thing here, and controlling speed is a big thing. So lighter riders Jackson and Gracie are great examples of.
Exactly.
Highly talented, very light. Surely there's a bit of an advantage there.
There is a potential advantage if you know how to exploit it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. There's no such thing as a blank advantage, you know. It's like, that's just, you can be light and be, you know, go out there and try and battle. You can be 10 kilos lighter than Tadej Pogacar and be like, I'm going to battle you uphill and you've not done any training. You haven't exploited your advantage, have you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's exactly the same for downhill. People always see this like kind of like this clear cause and effect. It's like, oh yeah, everyone's got the same skill level. Everyone does the same amount of work. You're just 10 kilos lighter. You win.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, you have to exploit it. And Jackson will definitely try and exploit it. And his arch nemesis in the overall, who's taken a little bit of a grip. He's kind of like, he's turning the screw a little bit.
Yeah.
Loïc Bruni has done a lot of laps in Champery as far as I'm aware, and he's probably put a lot of work in, so he'll be ready for it. And he knows it's not like to his advantage because he's a heavier guy, but he made the mud work in Leger and he will be making the corners work in Champery, so that's going to be an interesting battle. Ronan, he has, because for him the overall is non-existent because of the season to date with the injuries and coming from Tasmania and all the rest. So he's on it. He wants to win it, and there'll be a whole host of others. And there'll be, because Andy Kolb, podium here, you know, in a tough spot with the team situation.
And won the Enduro Champs here last year. In Champery. Yeah.
So, like, absolutely. There's a lot of people with a lot of reasons to go and win Champery. And there's probably next to no one who doesn't want to go out there and try and win it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the overall, at least, essentially. You know?
Yeah. Jackson's dad pointed out last night that it's Jackson's first elite world champs as well.
Crazy,
which is kind of crazy. He's quite
crazy.
up for it, I think.
Yeah, he's 100% up for it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of firsts for Jackson because of like the appendicitis season into the ACL season.
Yeah.
You know, he's achieved so much already. So there's still a lot of firsts to be had, but like this first elite world champs and all the rest. So yeah, it's cool. Huh?
It's going to be a super interesting race. Do we know much about changes from what everyone's ridden the last few weeks? Have you spoken to Ben much?
Yeah, I spoke to Ben. Actually, I met him trackside when I was over there riding.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And I know Ben for years, and he's a super nice guy, always just honest, open, you know, super relaxed. And I think he'll just be so stoked to have the best in the world on his track, essentially, you know, on the best berms in the world. So not long after I rode there, actually, I saw some clips on Instagram. So they rebuilt the berms below the road.
Okay.
So what's slightly different for the track that the fans who've never been there don't know is that normally the World Cup track that you ride is the bike park. Finishes on a tarmac road, and you ride the tarmac road back to Champery town to get the big huge gondola back up. There's a lower section where they build a bridge across the road, and then you do a little bit of 4x4 gravel track, and then you drop into some grassy corners, which were super famous. Sam Hill getting through in 2007, they were like the impossible corners in the wet, and he managed to get through, you know, big foot out, slide, the king. That was open this year, so that was probably another reason as to why people wanted to go and practice, because it was finally the full track open, you know. So they've redone all the berms there in true Morjan Champery style super vert berms, so they will be destroyed, and they'll be interesting, and it'll be super hard to like make them work come finals, I think. And then above that, as we go back up, there's definitely two kind of straight fresh sections planned, or fresh-ish. There's one totally brand new section planned, which will, I think, essentially make one high off camber entry line into a dead straight shoot, into a very tight corner, from what I can see, unless they keep going straight, which means it's going to be like 60 meters directly down the hill, which will be carnage. I hope they don't do that. There's already a steep section above that, which historically would have had like 3 corners, and there was one, essentially. There was the entry where you cut the corner and then just went dead straight to the third corner, which became the second corner. No, the fourth corner, which became the second corner, essentially. So they're cutting out 2 corners out of 4, and that was already like, wow, this is hectic, you know. But nothing steeper than a lot of the steep stuff, you know, people ride on Plenty. So anyone who's been here, like so many of the listeners would have ridden the Plenty steep. So you're looking at similar gradients to that, sustained gradients. Whereas Plenty, it's like about survival. Champery, you're trying to win a race, so it's a bit different. Very different. So they've changed those sort of things, and I think what in the time they had available, which is essentially 8 days, you know, 10 days, whatever. It's closed for 7 days. And no, closed for 12 days until practice starts. And I think they would have had probably 14 days total when they started a bit of work. So Ben said they're going to do their best just to clean it up, you know, clean up all the corners, just make it a nice, pretty racetrack to get destroyed again by the best in the world. So, like I said, it's a unique challenge, and for a one-time deal, I'm actually, having ridden it recently, I'm actually pretty excited. I was less than excited knowing that it's so well. When it was announced, I was like, oh no. But then having ridden it in this rough rough and ready state. I was like, this will actually be cool for a one-off go, you know.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be an exciting week, no doubt. And we get all the fancy bikes and fancy kits and all the stuff that comes with it as well, which is always a nice thing for the fans to see.
Might throw your the extra half a kilo of paint and the different flex might throw your 25 practice laps a bit skew, you
Who
know.
knows?
So yeah, but there's the other bike park tracks open if you want to go and burn it in. So I think there'll be a few Tuesday morning laps happening.
Yeah.
And the weather actually is probably a point we need to touch on, because that valley is, as we saw in 2007, as we saw in 2011 with Danny. The rain comes in the afternoon later in the year, in September. Well, here we are.
Which is where we are, yeah.
Which is where we are. And it looks like we've got biblical amounts of rain forecast for day one practice.
Okay.
Like outrageous. Similar to the first day of practice here in Leogang, soaked to the bone. Similar to the 1199 situation in Whistler, access is relatively challenging in certain parts of the track. There is tarmac road and 4x4 road that cuts through quite a bit of the track, but so far away and so steep between portions of the track, not really suitable for manual evacuation. So it's heli evac. And they almost cancelled the race in 2011. They almost cancelled Danny's run. Those last 4 or 5 guys almost got cancelled because the fog came in. And I think the PCP, Chief Commissar, was like, risked his biscuit to, especially in Switzerland, risked his biscuit to keep it going, to make it happen. And luckily he did, because it was iconic in the end. So Thursday we might be in a situation where we get some juggling of practice schedules because of how bad the weather's going to be. We'll see. However, from Friday onwards it looks
peachy.
So yeah, so you've heard me a few times yap on about these pristine autumn laps when the sky is a certain shade of blue. You can smell autumn. The grip is insane. That's exactly what we're getting Saturday and Sunday. Judging by the forecast, 23 cool in the morning, single digits. By the afternoon sun, 22, 23 degrees Celsius. 12 hours of sunshine for the whole day. The actual dream for a race in Champery. So if the forecast holds,
trash the track day one, and then some perfect riding.
It will literally be the best case scenario. The track gets a fresh, soft thrashing in the bad conditions, especially the braking points, gets destroyed. And then all of a sudden, like, it's narrow. You have your setups, you have your position and direction, position which leads to direction on track. And then you've got your braking bumps and your exposed rocks and everything else that make you have to have 2 different positions to decide your direction. You know what I mean? So then you start to get a challenge, and you multiply that by 65 corners or whatever it is. You've got an actual interesting challenge.
You got a race.
As narrow as it is, as one line as everyone will call it, which it essentially is, depending on how you define line. It's like the micro lines, the micro setups will matter heaps. So it's going to be cool. And physically, it's a big challenge. Big challenge in your upper body. We've not had something that pushes you that forward onto the bike. And then the mechanics, if you're not bleeding brakes every session, you're not a good mechanic, I think so.
Excellent. Good stuff, man. Excited. It's going to be an amazing week. It is. Thanks for dropping by and sharing the wisdom as always. Enjoy going and watching the XC later on with the family.
Swipe like and subscribe, please.
Do all that. Thank you. And we'll see you ahead of Lenzerheide to catch up on World Champs and chat about that.
Oh God, yeah.
Nice one.
Cool.
Cheers, mate.
Around fast. Thank you.